Top 10 WWE stars you never knew have a child. 5 you had no idea are married.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
15.
Child, Goldust. In terms of marriages, most fans know that Runnels has had his fair share of divorces. Among others, Dustin and his former manager Terry Runnels were actually really married from 1993 till their divorce in the late 90s. He would remarry again in 2002, only to divorce a year later. A little known fact about the veteran is that he did in fact have a child while married to Terry. The couple had a daughter way back in 1994, Dakota Avery. The photo above is a rare shot of Runnels alongside his daughter. On the bright side, Terry and Dustin have remained amicable since the divorce, which without a doubt helps the situation. Goldust has remarried for a third time since, tying the knot back in 2012 to his current wife, Tarell Marie Roche.
14.
Child, Apollo Cruz. For those that followed Cruz during his indie days as Yuha Nation, you can't help but to watch his talent in disbelief simply go to waste with the WWE. Cruz was rushed during his NXT stint given his prowess in the ring, though despite the early promotion, he's become nothing but a lower-tier act for the company. His skills are still there, though his lack of charisma has hurt his standing with the company. But in truth, isn't that what managers are for? Nonetheless, Cruz likely appreciates the steady pay he's getting from the company, especially given the fact that he's one of the newest fathers on the WWE's main roster. The 30-year-old recently had a child with his partner in June of 2017, welcoming in Said Sophia. At the very least, his life outside of the ring seems to be going well.
13.
Married, Neville. It's a shame that fans are slowly starting to forget about Neville, who was hands down the best superstar in the cruiserweight division, carrying the 205 Live brand on his back. Due to unhappiness, Neville walked out of the company, and he hasn't been seen or heard of since. Rumors indicated at one point that he had a strong conversation with Vince, though ultimately, he didn't return following the rumored convo, and remains on the shelf at this point. Fans are hoping to see the superstar back in 2018. For now, he'll continue to lay low, but at the very least, he isn't doing so alone. A little known fact about Neville is that he's been happily married since 2015, tying the knot with Natalie Satterley. Judging by the photos available online, Neville is one lucky man.
12.
Child, Scott Dawson. Scott Dawson is the perfect example of why you should never give up on your dreams. A longtime wrestler on the indie scene, Scott was about to call it quits following a tour in Japan. Getting married and with the objective of starting a family, Dawson was willing to put his dreams on the back burner in order to provide for his family with something a little more stable. Then out of nowhere, the WWE came calling with interest in signing the wrestler. He was about to leave the business, but that all changed quickly. He was signed to the WWE in 2012, and with the stability of working out of Orlando and an actual contract, Dawson and his wife gave birth to their first child in 2014, Casey. We hope to see the tag wrestler back in action very soon after sustaining a right bicep injury.
11.
Child, Luke Harper. No offense to Luke Harper, but it's hard to imagine him having kids given his persona inside of the squared circle. If anything, that's a compliment given how great he plays up his character. For those of you that have heard Harper speak out of the ring, you'd be shocked to find out that he's quite the public speaker, sounding rather educated. Yes, he's fooled most of us, that's for darn sure. Shocking that he's not really sleeping in the basement of the Wyatt family compound. Along with being married since 2008, Luke is also the proud father of 2 children. The 38-year-old has 2 sons, one born in 2012, while the other was most recently born just a couple of days ago. All the best to Harper for both his career in the ring and outside of the WWE as a proud family man.
10.
10. Married, Ember Moon. A little known fact about the current NXT Women's Champion is that she's been off the block in her personal life for the last 8 years. Yes, Ember met her current love out on the indie scene. Matthew Palmer is the lucky dude, and his proposal went viral as he asked the question in the middle of the ring. Shortly after the engagement, Moon joined the main roster, and has been a top prospect in the division ever since. The wedding might have to wait a little longer as Moon is now responsible for pushing the division ahead. With all of the recent call-ups, the division is a different place, and it's up to Moon to continue to carry the title with the prestige it requires. Given her skills and draw value with the NXT crowds, we have no doubt that she'll thrive as the champion.
9.
9. Child, Mickie James. We have to say it, before saying anything else, Mickie James is a smoking MILF. Okay, now that we got it out of the way, let's take a second to appreciate the fact that James is both a mother and a WWE superstar working a full-time schedule. Though in truth, James would admit herself that it came very close to working out differently. With a child, music career and other projects, James contemplated leaving the business for good when she was on the indie scene. Timing is everything, as we saw with Scott Dawson earlier, and she would get an unexpected call by the WWE just as she was about to end her career. After her NXT return, the WWE would offer the veteran a contract, and she's still going strong. Outside of the ring, she's also happily married to Impact and indie star Magnus. The couple got married in late December of 2015.
8.
8. Child, Erick Rowan. 36-year-old Erick Rowan falls under the same category as Luke Harper. Given his persona inside of the ring, you wouldn't expect him to be a proud father outside of his character, but he is. Rowan's been happily married since 2010, a year before signing his first WWE deal after a lengthy run on the indies. He would have 2 children while with the WWE, and he's posted some pictures with his family via social media. The forgotten member of the Wyatt family has gone through some struggles in finding an identity away from the Wyatt gimmick. However, things look like they're finally starting to turn as he recently repackaged his gimmick as a member of the Bludgeon Brothers alongside the other proud papa mentioned earlier in the article, Luke Harper. Given the fact that both are in their late 30s and raising families, you can't help but to cheer them on nowadays and hope for the best.
7.
7. Married, Tyler Breeze. Many wrestling fans would be surprised to find out that Tyler is married, let alone being hitched to someone that's also in the wrestling business. Breeze and his current wife Audrey Murray met during their time together in FCW and later NXT. Like Breeze, Audrey was labeled as a big potential star, while in FCW is a former champion, though she would get released surprisingly when the company changed to NXT. She's been on the indie scene ever since. Despite the release, the two managed to stay together, and on September of 2016, they quietly got married. Photos of the wedding surfaced online with a couple of WWE superstars making the trip. Although his current WWE role is in the lower tier, Breeze has admitted to being more than content with the pay he's receiving, being able to provide for both himself and his wife outside of the ring.
6.
6. Child, Karl Anderson. Karl Anderson has kept things on the down low pertaining to his personal life, which is why the fact that he has 3 kids might be pretty shocking. Fans complain about his booking alongside partner Luke Gallows, but at the end of the day, it must feel good for the duo to get a steady pay week in and week out providing for their families. That works double for Anderson, who's got a wife and 3 children to feed back at home away from the ring. Married to a pretty smoking Asian wife, and with 3 beautiful boys, the 37-year-old has been wrestling since 2000. He's been all around the world till finally ending up in the WWE last year. Although his character is in need of a boost, he'll be happy with his stable deal at this stage of his career.
5.
5. Child, Conor. Another tag team wrestler struggling to find his way, Conor has floundered as one half of the Ascension since making his main roster debut. Down in NXT, the tag team was simply dominating, becoming the longest reigning tag champs down in development. Squandering that momentum seemed impossible, though as we've witnessed time and time again, developmental success doesn't always translate positively. This team was an example of that. Like Anderson in the previous entry, Conor likely isn't complaining all that much due to the steady pay he's been receiving in the last couple of years. He's a father and happily married to Chrissy Vane, a former indie wrestler, so yeah, bringing home the bacon means a lot for the former NXT Tag Champion. Their boy Elijah was recently born in September of 2017.
4.
4. Married, Jason Jordan. 2017 wasn't too shabby for Jason Jordan. Not only was he promoted to Raw as a major singles star, being deemed as the son of Kurt Angle, but away from the ring, he was also enjoying the ultimate high from getting hitched to his now wife, April Elizabeth. Unlike other WWE Superstar weddings, this one was made public with various photos of the two being released online. They were also photographed together at the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Whether you buy into his gimmick or not, there simply is no denying his merit in being in such a spot. A little known fact that tends to get overlooked is that Jordan's been with the WWE's developmental system since 2011. He's finally getting pushed as a major future star, and given his recent in-ring performances, the 29-year-old is going to be a mainstay for quite some time.
3.
3. Child, Jeff Hardy. Unlike brother Matt, who's an open book, when it comes to his personal life, Jeff Hardy instead chooses to live a private life. In fact, many would be surprised to find out that not only does he have 2 kids, but he's been married to the same woman, Beth Britt, since 2011. Jeff actually met his girlfriend way back in 1999, believe it or not. She's been with Jeff through thick and thin, even when the couple's house burned down back in March of 2008. After building a new home, the couple welcomed their first child, a daughter named Ruby Claire Hardy. Shortly after, in 2015, the couple had another daughter, Nara Quinn Hardy, born in late December. The 40-year-old is currently on the shelf with the WWE rehabbing an injury. Judging by his recent work despite his age, he's still got it, and will continue to deliver for a couple more years at the very least.
2.
2. Married, Shinsuke Nakamura. The most shocking name to be married is without a doubt Shinsuke Nakamura. The former NXT champion has been married since 2007 to his wife Harumi Makawa. Despite the decade-long marriage, we've heard or hardly seen anything pertaining to his wife. It's even unknown whether or not she's living with him in the Orlando area. Coming from the Japanese culture that takes wrestling very seriously, especially when it comes to protecting the integrity of the entertainment form, Shinsuke has elected to keep this part of his life private. On his downtime, we've seen numerous surfing pics and videos of the WWE Superstar, while the identity of his wife remains a mystery, and something we've yet to see despite fake pics online linking the identity of his wife. It remains to be seen if we'll ever see the 37-year-old's wife, while he's actively performing for the company.
1.
1. Child, Brock Lesnar. We end off the article with a rare photo pertaining to Lesnar's past. It's common knowledge that Brock has 2 children with Sable, both boys, Turk and Duke. However, what tends to fall under the radar is the fact that he also had twins with his former fiancée, a boy Luke and girl Mylin. The photo above is a rare photo of Mylin Lesnar all grown up. Not only does she resemble Brock visually, but she's also a hell of an athlete just like her father. Photos are available online showing Maya's prowess in various sports. Heck, who knows? Maybe one day she'll translate those skills into a WWE ring walking in similar footsteps like her father. Seriously speaking, wouldn't that be something? Still in her teens however, she's got some time to go before making such a decision.
Yeah.